Hey everyone, it's Chris Carter here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. We got a lot to talk about. I want to talk about Steelers training camp and how Jalen Ramsey might be becoming the ultimate NFL villain. We'll talk about that. Aaron Rodgers striking back with the offense on Thursday, and Terry McLaurin trade request. All that here and more on the Locked On Steelers podcast. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Steelers, your daily Pittsburgh Steelers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter, bringing you your daily dose of all things on the Pittsburgh Steelers. As always, you can find the show on your favorite podcasting apps and on YouTube. Like this video if you enjoy it. Subscribe to this YouTube channel to get all of your daily Monday through Friday episodes, as well as our bonus content. We thank you for making us your first listen every day because we're your team every day. We got a lot to talk about today. Of course, the Steelers came back to practice, their seventh practice of training camp on Thursday. It wasn't a padded practice, but it was plenty feisty. Lots of fights, lots of interactions. We'll get into those in a bit here. Just like we'll get into the breaking news that came out last night that Terry McLaurin has officially requested a trade from the Commanders. I'll give you my thoughts on that. But I wanted to start with my leadoff topic here. And I think this is becoming a central part of the Steelers and who they want to be, especially on the defensive side of the ball, but maybe even everywhere. And it's centering around Jalen Ramsey, not in a schematic type of way, but in an attitude type of way. The more and more I see Jalen Ramsey, I see this guy as the ultimate NFL villain. And I'm like, he's no stranger to being that, right? Jalen Ramsey's always been the cornerback that talks a lot, that gets in your face, that challenges you, that is loud about him, about his success over you. That's who he's always been. But all throughout practice, this man is the ultimate antagonist to anything that is on offense, and in a good way, in a way that I think it's bleeding over into inspiring everyone else to be like that. And that's not to say other people wouldn't be testy on their own right, but all throughout practice on Thursday, even in a non-padded practice, I'm watching the receivers and cornerbacks are just doing a simple release drill where the cornerbacks are just pressing the receivers are just trying to work to get free in a certain amount of space so that they can run their route. It's just a simple drill and no pads are on, so it's not trying to be physical. A couple of receivers start winning some routes against the other DBs. And then Jalen Ramsey comes over and is just like, nah, not in my house. And so he calls them out. Calvin Austin tries to run the route. He dominates Calvin Austin in this drill. And he just looks at them and he said, I told you, this is my house. And then he looks at Rock Taylor, an undrafted free agent rookie, who I don't know how Jalen Ramsey got beef with this man. But he points at him and he says something real nasty to him. Rock Taylor gets back in his face. So they start barking. They got to be separated. And it was war the rest of the day. And it's not just that day. I told you how 2 days ago he got into it with Calvin Austin. Everyone he has gotten into it with. He's gotten into it with Pat Freiermuth. He's gotten into it with everybody. And I think that's who Jalen Ramsey wants to be. He doesn't just want to be an elite cornerback. And listen to me. When he's doing these coverage drills and you're seeing this is elite play we're seeing from this guy. He is playing at a very high level. He is cutting people's routes off before they even get there. He has the very good opportunity to still be an all-pro superstar cornerback for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Maybe even the best cornerback we've seen for the Pittsburgh Steelers since Rod Woodson. And I mean that level. And while he's doing that, he's not being nice about it. And there's something to that, right? The Steelers have plenty of classic villains in their history. You think back to James Harrison, ultimate villain. You think back to Joey Porter. I wouldn't say Joey Porter was the ultimate villain because I don't think Joey Porter was ever the best edge rusher in football the way James Harrison was the best edge rusher in football. But Joey Porter certainly was a big villain to many teams. I think TJ Watt has become an ultimate villain, but TJ Watt, he has like the more casual trash talk where he'll let a player know after he sacks them, but he doesn't like bark in their face the way that Jalen Ramsey does and the way that Jalen Ramsey carries himself. And that's fine. TJ's way of like, he's a superstar player, just like Jalen Ramsey, maybe even more so. But the way Jalen Ramsey goes about his business, and he has the chance to still be the best cornerback in the NFL this year. I think Patrick Surtain was that last year. We'll see how Jalen Ramsey does in this system, but he is bringing it every single time. He has challenged people, and he's getting inside guys' heads. And as I'm seeing him do that, DK Metcalf, Calvin Austin, and Roman Wilson, and everybody the Steelers have, it just makes me wonder what's it going to be like when he's out there against the Jamar Chases, not Hollywood Brown, but just the T Higgins, all the people in the division that they're gonna be fighting against. That's gonna be a big thing that I think it works in the Steelers' favor, is that he is going to be this villain that is going to be mean, nasty, not care about your well-being, and just be there to dominate. And when you have players like that, it bleeds out into poop. And that's James Harrison. As much as the late 2000s Steelers defense was defined by Troy Polamalu and his greatness and all the players that made it up, like, Casey Hampton played a big part. It wasn't just James Harrison and Troy Polamalu, but they were two big parts of it. James Harrison's identity, I think, played a big role in that. And maybe that's what the Steelers have been missing. Like Cam Hayward is mean and nasty, and he puts his hand in the dirt and he beats up a lot of people. But Cam Hayward's a nice guy. He's friendly. He has his podcast. He's cool. Jalen Ramsey is not friendly. He's not nice. And maybe that's something the Steelers have been missing on their defense, is the ultimate level of nasty combined with a superstar talent. And that could be something that makes him the ultimate villain of the NFL this season. And the Steelers and Steelers fans could be very happy that it's on their side. Now, talking about that, I was going to make that my entire first segment. We got to address this next part quickly, because this was breaking news, came out from several people reporting this. Terry McLaurin, of course, the Commanders wide receiver, has officially requested a trade. This is now out there in the world. It does not mean the trade is going to happen. The Commanders supposedly want to get things done. Remember, Myles Garrett requested a trade, and then it led to him getting big money. I still think that the Commanders, at the end of the day, will sign Terry McLaurin, because it would be absolutely stupid to let Terry McLaurin, who is your star receiver that's home developed, been with you the whole time, who had a great rapport with your rookie star quarterback who lit up the NFL, got you one step shy of the Super Bowl, and to let that guy go when you have the money to pay him. I think all of this is still just a ploy. But if he's a real trade target, that's a tough one for Omar Khan to pass up. Now, the problem is they're going to want serious compensation for this guy, because he's a very talented receiver in his late 20s. He's in his prime. That's going to take serious compensation. And I don't know if the Steelers want to give up any 2026 draft picks, considering that's going to be the year that they want to move up and go get their quarterback. And I don't know if the Steelers want to give up any of their players right now that would be comparable to that. Like, they're not giving up Joey Porter Jr. They're not giving up any of their young stars that they really like. I don't think that could possibly happen in this situation here. I still don't think the Terry McLaurin trade happens. But I gotta say, the longer this goes on, the more my eyes start burning, the more that I look at that situation. So lots to talk about. Though at training camp. That's why we're only spending a couple minutes there on Terry McLaurin. Speaking of Jalen Ramsey being the ultimate villain, while the defense was physical, or has been physical and has been, winning a lot, the offense did strike back, and there were plenty of fights that broke out. I will get into all of those next here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter. Stick with us. We'll be right back. But first, I want to remind you this show is also brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever wish managing your money felt easier? Well, with Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place, so you can stop just managing your money and actually start building wealth. If you're like me, you probably have a lot of subscriptions and place a lot of orders online. Over time, that adds up to be a lot of money. Well, with Monarch Money, you can keep a close watch on all that spending in an easy-to-see, organized, and convenient presentation. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com, and you'll get 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year, only at Monarch Money. Back here on the Locked On Steelers podcast, I'm your host, Chris Carter. We continue our show here, recapping what we saw at training camp, giving you all the different insights. Now, before we get to the offense and their dominance, and not the dominance, they won a lot more, and they really struck back at the defense. I want to talk about the fight that are going on, because it's getting nasty out here. Not on top of just Jalen Ramsey barking at Rock Taylor. It went down because then they did a coverage drill where it wasn't just release. It was, quarterback throwing the ball to the wide receiver while the defensive back and wide receiver / tight end while the defensive backs covered them. And there were some really big show outs at that moment. I will say biggest win was Roman Wilson. That man went deep, went up on Joey Porter Jr. Joey Porter Jr. got his hand on the ball. Roman Wilson took it off his head, even did the on your head dance afterwards or celebration afterwards. Joey Porter had to kind of suck that one up. Roman Wilson made a play. He's been doing a little bit better in camp. He's still not all the way there. I don't think he's the number 2 yet over Calvin Austin, but that was a very good sign to see him make that play and a few of the other plays he's been making in training camp. And that didn't lead to a fight. That was just a fair square. Joey Porter took that on the chin, kept it moving. But, man, there were some other ones that were not kept on the chin. And one of them was Jonnu Smith versus Juan Thornhill. Jonnu Smith runs a route, shake route, gets open, gets loose, catches the ball, runs up a little bit, looks back at Juan Thornhill, says something, and he spikes the ball at Juan Thornhill's feet. Juan Thornhill comes up, grips him up, rips his helmet off, and he got to get separated. It got so serious. The ultimate villain I was talking about, Jalen Ramsey, broke up the fight, which I thought was hilarious because I'm like, Jalen Ramsey's been trying to fight everybody. And even he was like, hey, guys, settle down. It's not that serious. But so they get to go again later. Like I think they were like, nah, we got to settle this. It's got to be Juan Thornhill just grips up Jonnu Smith for the entire route. He just pressed him at the line, knocked him off his route. He might have gotten called for holding if this was an NFL game. But the point was he was going to be like, you're not going to physically beat me. And it leads to an incomplete pass. The ball rolls down to the end zone because it was a missed pass. The whole secondary comes out to celebrate Juan Thornhill. Juan Thornhill is talking to Jonnu Smith. He picks up the ball, runs back with it, and hands it to Jonnu Smith. And the whole secondary is celebrating. It was crazy. And that wasn't the only part. There were several other parts where things got testy, things got, a little bit violent, and things had to eventually get calmed down. But these two units, the receivers and the DBs, do not like each other, as well as the tight ends along with the receivers. But it was fun to see that kind of level of competitiveness that we've seen. And we talked about how on Wednesday you saw Peyton Wilson kind of talking smack to Kenneth Gainwell and other guys like that. It's getting feisty out there in Steelers training camp. And I think these guys are starting to get raring to go to hit somebody else for a change. And so that's good to see. And Friday Night Lights is tonight at Latrobe Memorial Stadium. If you're there, say what's up. It's always glad to see you. Also, shout out to Ed from Cleveland. I apologize, Ed. I've been so busy. I keep forgetting to do my shout out. We talked about this. Thank you for always watching the show. Shout out to everyone else I've met at camp too. But yes. Back on the point as far as the fights, it's been intense. But even in that intensity, we saw these teams, these guys keep their heads afterwards, and it's not overlongly personal. It's just they are competing and they're fighting in a close space. When we asked Jonnu Smith about him and Juan Thornhill, this is how he handled it, and it kind of gives you the sense of look, they're gonna be intense, but at the end of the day, they are still teammates, but they're looking to prove something in these moments. Here was Jonnu Smith when we asked him about the fight.
Got any kind of history with 22?
Nah, I ain't got no history with 22. We just out here training camp, competing, trying to get better. That's it.
So you kind of just spiked the ball at his feet when you made that catch. Is that sort of just a statement to the defense, just getting back at him for, other times of practice?
No, man, when you're a competitive man, you just, that competitive spirit come out in different ways. You know what I mean? That's just how I was feeling at the time. You know what I mean? But, we just out there battling, you know what I mean? Training camp, competing, trying to get better. That's it.
And the thing is, they're going to be competitive like that, right? Those things are going to happen. But at the end of the day, it's just them trying to prove to each other. They're trying to give themselves the best reps as possible. And as you're doing this, you're in a training camp environment. The refs aren't here to police you at all times. So it's going to get a little extra sometimes. But that's the level of competition that these guys have. These are grown men, some of the best athletes in the world going up against each other. Naturally, testosterone, some things are going to happen like that. But even in doing that, there was another big one. Chuck Clark and DK Metcalf went at. Metcalf beat him on an underneath route. and afterwards like poked him in the face mask, being like kind of like touching his face mask, pushing him back. Chuck Clark responds by ripping DK's helmet off. Neither of them took it that personal. And when we talked to both of them afterwards, they were both kind of dismissing it. But I thought that was pretty solid. But what was also pretty solid was the offense was moving the ball, though the defense did win 7 shots. Aaron Rodgers was a lot sharper, and DK Metcalf and several other players on the offense talked about how there was a point made after how badly the defense won Wednesday that they got to come out and be better. And I think it's really interesting to see how Friday Night Lights goes because the defense won so soundly on Wednesday. The offense came out really strong on Thursday. They were making a lot of catches downfield, over the middle, different spots, winning their reps a lot more consistently. And it was kind of interesting to see that and how that worked. And also Aaron Rodgers, as we said on yesterday's show with Nick Farabaugh, we talked about how with Aaron Rodgers, it's going to take time for them to get their timing down. And you already saw improvement on that in just the day after I said that. And it was really impressive to see him go through his reads. He was hitting DK Metcalf. He was hitting Pat Freiermuth. He was hitting Jonnu Smith. He was hitting Roman Wilson. He was hitting Calvin Austin. Everybody was getting worked into this offense. And it was impressive to see how it was all coming together. And I think this is, again, a part of why they're really believing in Aaron Rodgers, at least for the short term, because the complexity that he can bring to his passing game, to his ability to see the field, is going to open up a lot of opportunities for the Steelers' assembled playmakers. Here's DK Metcalf when I asked him about Aaron Rodgers and learning with him and growing with him after practice.
DK, it seemed like Aaron was able to find you guys different levels of the offense and hit you guys. It seemed like this was one of his better days. What do you appreciate about his process and how he gets better with you guys each day?
I mean, everybody knows this is, a new group. We got new faces, new people on offense, still plugging pieces in, and nobody's getting frustrated. We're all, trying to learn together, trying to work together, and it's a steady stream of communication from the meeting room to out here on the field. So that's what I appreciate about not just Aaron, but this whole group. Everybody's, open to communication, open to criticism, and I think that's gonna take us far.
Again, a big part of what Aaron Rodgers is going to be bringing to the table as a quarterback for the Steelers isn't just going to be his ability to throw and the quick release. It's going to be putting it all together, understanding the how and the why of what to do things. Roman Wilson, I won't play this clip, but Roman Wilson, I asked about, his different roles. Roman Wilson isn't just being a slot receiver. He's lining up in the split end, the flanker, the slot. He's doing all these different roles. And he said, you can do that. He's like, we need to do that because we see how we fit. And we're going to talk more about that versatility in the next segment. But again, to have that versatility, to properly use that in all these different alignments, you need a quarterback who is smart up top and knows how to execute with that. And that's something that Aaron Rodgers has been for the large majority of his career. Here was Jonnu Smith also, when I asked the same question to him, praising Rodgers and saying the reasons why they believe in him.
John, it seems like Aaron connected with you guys a lot more today. This might have been his most consistent day as far as finding you guys in different parts of the field. What can you appreciate about his process that he's worked with you guys to continue to build chemistry?
I would just say he's another coach on the field, and just kind of the way he sees things, you can be very comfortable with Aaron operating the offense, and obviously he's going to be one of the greatest to ever do it at his position. And so it's an honor, you know what I mean, to have you, and understanding that this is his last year, you want to go out there, you want to be successful for him, you want to compete for him, and he's a great teammate, man. I mean, I don't know, how things have been portrayed in the past or whatever, however it's portrayed to the media, but that guy's a great teammate, great leader, great quarterback, glad he's on our team.
So again, just like you hear the appreciation for these guys. They're not going to say like, hey, what does he exactly do with us? What exactly does he tell us to be better at? Because they're not going to reveal all their schematics and what exactly they're working on. But the level of detail that Aaron Rodgers is going to bring to things, it takes time to pull out those details to get them right. Even in this day where they won a lot more with the offense, there were plays that they missed. There was one time DK Metcalf ran a nice little crossing pattern and was free in the Steelers defense, and Aaron Rodgers missed him, and it looked like Aaron Rodgers thought he was just going to be a little bit further. And I think that's also sometimes when I was talking about Aaron Rodgers missing high a little bit in Wednesday's practice, I think he's still adjusting to how these receivers run their routes, and that takes time. Even when you talk about it in the classroom, you need to experience it, you need to go through it, you need to review how you did it in practice and then keep working on it. And that's what they're doing. And that's something that Aaron Rodgers has done throughout his career. He's a professional. I think that that's what's going on right now. And you're going to see this offense to continue to improve. And the fact that they're striking back against the Steelers defense, that's really aggressive, really talented, and I think has a really good potential to be a top 5 defense, maybe even the potential to be the number 1 overall defense, as Deshaun Elliott said when I asked him that question. For them to be striking back against them already, good sign that they're going to have something when they put it all together when the season begins. We're going to take another quick break. When we come back, I want to talk about how flexibility and versatility are playing a big role in what both sides of the ball of the Steelers are doing on both sides of the ball, defense and offense. That's next here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter. Stick with us. We'll be right back. But first, I want to remind you, this show is also brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Time to fuel up and turn it up with 5 Hour Energy Transfusion. It brings the bold grape, ginger, and lime flavor of your favorite golf drink minus the alcohol into a quick, energizing shot. Whether you're sinking birdies or just making memories with friends, this is a hole-in-one for your energy game. Let's be honest, some days on the course or off it, you just need that extra boost to stay sharp and energized. I'm not a golfer, but I do feel on my game when I go to Topgolf and I'm able to hit that back net with my driver. Golf is all about good times with good people and good flavors, of course. The grape ginger lime flavor gives you the best parts of your clubhouse go-to without chasing the beverage cart. If you go to 5hourenergy.com today, that is the number 5hourenergy.com. You can use my promo code LOCKEDONGOLF to receive 20% off your order. The offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. Whether you're meeting with friends or trying to turn 18 holes into 36, get the energizing boost you need to power through by ordering transfusion flavored 5 Hour Energy shots today. We're back here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter. We continue our episode here today, breaking things down. I want to talk about that flexibility part that I've been going here, and the versatility, meaning about how players are used. And I wrote about this in the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette for my skinny post. It should be up by at least 4 or 5 a.m. Thursday Eastern time. So go read that in the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, because I write about this in more detail and break into some of the history of it. And I'll describe a little bit of it here. But part of this came from when I asked Chuck Clark, and it was a good question that Nick Farabaugh brought up to me. He was like, we don't know what safety he's for sure going to play. I'm assuming he's going to play free safety. What if he wants to play? What if he's better at strong safety? What if he can be a backup to Deshaun Elliott and Juan Thornhill is just the free safety? And so I thought, okay, let me ask Chuck Clark that question, along with a few other questions as well. And Chuck Clark gave an interesting answer that kind of basically said he's going to be playing both roles, and the specific role of a quote-unquote free safety isn't just what he's going to be sticking to. Here was Chuck Clark when I got to ask him a few questions after Thursday's practice.
Chuck, you've been out here now like about a week or so. How has it been acclimating with your fellow DBs? You guys have been very competitive out here.
It feel good. Just picking up the playbook more myself personally, and just learning how to group what we want to set as a standard, as a unit. But it feel good just learning everybody, involving, and feeling balling.
You guys have been flying around a lot. How's it been like you adapted to that, to the way that they want you to fly around here? And do you feel yourself more of a free or a strong safety in the system?
I think in this system right now, I'm just playing football, learning as much as I can and doing whatever I can. I mean, I don't feel I'm going to limit myself to one thing. I know I can do both things, so just the more that I can do. I mean, I know I can play different positions as well. If it comes to dime and nickel, whatever it be. I mean, I've done that versatility as well, so I'm just ready for whatever to come my way.
Do you feel like both safety positions are kind of fluid right now with the way that you guys play, a lot of guys switching off?
Yeah, I think that's just the nature of the game now, you know what I'm saying? Being able to do multiple things.
So the nature of the game is absolutely part of it. Like, they need defenders and receivers alike need to be able to do multiple things. But Chuck Clark, talking about playing both roles, I've seen him move into deep coverage and underneath coverage a lot, as I've seen for Juan Thornhill and Deshaun Elliott. Before, it was more like Micah Fitzpatrick would sometimes go down, but he was primarily the deep safety for the Steelers for pretty much most of his time with the Steelers, right? And there's those traditional roles that they help, right? Because certain players are just really good at certain things. When Minka Fitzpatrick paired with Terrell Edmonds, Minka was the deep safety. Terrell was the box safety. And Terrell Edmonds was a decent box safety. As much as he was not a first-round pick worthy type of player, he would take away tight ends, running backs. He was the janitor, we called him on. He cleaned up so much in the defense, and that helped Minkah Fitzpatrick be who he was on the back end because he would take away some of those key matchups for them. And I think that was a huge part of that. And again, their roles were important, as have been roles throughout all of Steelers defense's history. You think back to even the cornerbacks that worked with them. Steven Nelson and Joe Hayden, outside cornerbacks. Mike Hilton, slot cornerbacks. Their chemistry worked great. And then also, you think back to even further back, Troy Polamalu and Ryan Clark. Troy Polamalu was the ranging, strong safety that would fly here, fly there, do all these other things. Ryan Clark's job was to keep the top on the defense, and if someone came your way, light them up with a big hit. And they worked great together. And all three of those groups that I just talked about, Minkah Fitzpatrick and Terrell Edmonds, Steven Nelson, Mike Hilton, and Joe Hayden, and Troy Polamalu and Ryan Clark, all part of top 5 Steelers defenses in the NFL. That's what I think that the Steelers, that's what I think. Roles can be very important to what the Steelers want to do, but at the same time, they can also be limiting. And if you think you can be more fluid and make it harder to guess which player is going where, that's going to add an extra layer of strategy and complication to your game that can confuse your opponents. And I'm seeing a lot of that with the Steelers defense right now. There'll be plays where it's Jalen Ramsey, Darius Slay, Joey Porter Jr., and Deshaun Elliott as the safeties out there. And sometimes Deshaun Elliott will drop back deep. Sometimes Jalen Ramsey will drop back deep. Somebody else will drop back deep. And it's always moving. It's always fluid. And I think that that's a very interesting thing the Steelers are going to do. Now, it requires a high level of communication. It requires a high level of execution. It requires high level of play because you're asking a lot out of guys to do things. And the reason why, you want to get sometimes very specific about positions and roles is because the more familiar certain players are with their roles, the better they can be at it. Because you think about it, when you're a cornerback, right, there's techniques that you watch for. There's receivers or styles that you watch for. There's certain situations that you prepare for. But when you have to be in so many different positions, it requires to be prepared for so many different things. But the Steelers are okay with Jalen Ramsey, Joey Porter, Darius Slay, Chuck Clark, Monta. They're okay with these guys moving around. Even Brandon Echols is bringing the kind of heat right now and being very flexible in the Steelers defense. They're okay with that, and I think that's a very good sign for what this defense could be and make it very hard to predict when offenses are trying to figure out, hey, pregame, we want to get this matchup. We want to get this guy on that guy and we know how the Steelers operate. We know what roles they like to play. So let's do this. Let's do these motions. Let's do these formations. We'll get this matchup. But if the Steelers are moving guys around so much, it is so much harder to game plan against that because then it's so much harder to predict where guys are going to be. And that's going to be a big factor on defense. But also, it can be a big factor on offense because we're seeing the same sort of things happening with what the Steelers are doing with their tight ends and receivers and even their running backs. Jonnu Smith even lines up as a running back sometimes for the Steelers in some of these practices. And if you go back to his history, he had a really good 57-yard run in Arthur Smith's offense with the Titans out of the running back position. And not something that he did a lot, but it's a situation where they come out empty set. They say, okay, cool. It's 3 receivers and 2 tight ends. It's Pat Freiermuth, Jonnu Smith, DK Metcalf, Roman Wilson, and Calvin Austin. Then all of a sudden, motion, Jonnu Smith comes in the backfield. He lines up next to Aaron Rodgers. It's actually a run play. They pitch him out because the defense went small to match up with this empty set alignment. Now they don't have the run defenders out, and Jonnu Smith's a fast guy. He can hit the hole, get big yards. Stuff like that can catch people off guard. And that the Steelers are this willing to be this free with the flexibility and allow players to do more is very interesting for their strategy this year. Listen to DK Metcalf even give credit to Arthur Smith on just the simple, he's letting me run the routes the way I want to run them and not pigeonholing me into the situation. Here's DK Metcalf.
You learned about offense and Arthur and his offense, kind of the way he wants things done.
He gives us, pretty much freedom to, win our routes, not trying to pigeonhole us with, trying to run a route a certain way. But, we got to be on point with the details with 8 and huddle.
So being on point with 8 in the details, talking about Aaron Rodgers because the details are very important to his game. But again, this plays into what the Steelers are doing, the flexibility, letting them do things their way. I think that's a very interesting point. The Steelers are opening themselves up to allowing these players to play to their strengths in these various roles. Jonnu Smith, a big part of that, a guy who lines up at wide receiver spots in normal formations, not necessarily just traditional tight end spots. Here was him talking about the flexibility that the Steelers offense has offered him.
When I talked to Chuck Clark, I asked him, is he a free safety or a strong safety? He said, I'm wherever they want me. It seems like there's a lot of fluidity on that side of the ball. Do you feel it's the same way with the way you and the receivers are working, with how you guys line up? It's less about positions, more about just talent.
Right. You know, that availability, that versatility is going to give us flexibility, and you know that's going to be a problem for other teams, and that's how we kind of assembling this thing. And you know, it's a selflessness aspect that goes into it, being able to play all different positions and learn different positions, and maybe not what you have been used to doing in the past. You know, we're working to the big goal, and we all know what that is, and so you know, we're ready to attack this thing head on, however it comes.
That flexibility and versatility, I think, is something that's going to be big on both sides of the ball. They're going to want to get mismatches for the offense. They're going to get tough matchups for the defense and finding different ways to keep people off guard. And listen, other teams are going to try their own ways of doing it too. In fact, they already have. But I think the Steelers are showing they're open to being more flexible, more you know, changing up their differences, bringing a wider variety of plans to the table. And we'll see how this plays out when they actually start to get playing teams. Because right now they're experimenting. There's going to be plenty of things that we're seeing in training camp right now that won't make it to the final drawing board for the Steelers when they make their game plans. But the fact that they're being this open right now is different than when I've covered other Steelers training camps, and I think it should be, I guess, not illuminating, but encouraging to Steelers fans that this season could be really different on both sides of the ball with how things work in a positive way if these players take to these plans, stick to the details, and keep working at it together. We'll continue to cover Steelers training camp. Friday Night Lights practice is tonight. I will be on hand. You can read my work in the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette about it, but you can also follow me on all my social media accounts. That's Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, TikTok, same handle everywhere. It's at Carter Critiques. You can read my work in the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette by going to post-gazette.com. You can find me here on the Locked On Steelers podcast every day, Monday through Friday, breaking down your Pittsburgh Steelers on your favorite podcasting apps and on YouTube. Like this video if you enjoy it. Subscribe to this channel to get all of those Monday through Friday episodes. Back here, we'll still have our daily updates throughout the weekend about the night practice and how everything goes Saturday and Sunday. But keep it here for all your updates with the Locked On Steelers podcast.